Hi, welcome to this episode of the Cold Hearted Complaints. Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars.
Star Wars!
That's right, Star Wars.
I love Star Wars.
That's right, and that's why I am joined today by Yoshinom, otherwise known as Yoshinom to you on YouTube. Yosh.
I like Star Wars.
He likes Star Wars. Now, Yosh is a fellow YouTuber and friend, and I want to talk about the Star Wars sequel trilogy by Disney. The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker. And I didn't want to just get my own ranting session going on, so I wanted to bring someone who has extensive Star Wars knowledge and obsessive Star Wars love. Yosh, introduce yourself.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh. Hi, my name is Yosh. I do tend to like Star Wars quite a bit. A lot. Kind of a lot. Actually, yeah, no, I kind of love Star Wars. And I just do YouTube and Twitch stuff.
Links to his channel, Twitter, and Twitch in the description below. All right, with all that said and done here, we're going to talk about Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Okay. So, for those of you who don't know, in the late 2010s, Star Wars began its new saga. In this, what they did is they created 3 movies that took place after the original trilogy of Star Wars. These movies are controversial, to say the least. Or at
the very least.
At the very least. So we're going to talk about them, give our opinions on them, our thoughts, and what we see going forward for Star Wars. And let's just start off where this whole thing started off, with The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens, directed by J.J. Abrams, is a good movie. It is exactly what it needs to be to bring back Star Wars into the mainstream.
Yeah, it is a good summer blockbuster movie.
Yes, a good summer blockbuster movie that came out in winter. Star Wars The Force Awakens was a junk food reintroduction to the idea of Star Wars movies. And it's really appropriate that they chose J.J. Abrams to do this, because he's really well known for bringing back series from the dead, really revitalizing them. He did this with Mission Impossible, he did this with the new Star Trek movies, and he does it here with Star Wars The Force Awakens.
They call him the rebooter because of all the boots he wears.
A lot of boots, is a big closet. But the one thing I felt was a little lacking was giving me confidence in the forward direction of Star Wars. Was Star Wars going to be what The Force Awakens was? A kinda tepid remake, rehashing of previous storylines, focusing a lot on the ideas and the images and iconography of the original trilogy, while not adding anything in and of its own. It's this idea that Yoshi and I are going to explore throughout all these movies, saying how they took the idea of Star Wars and pushed it forward into the 21st century. And the one thing, Yoshi, that I definitely had a problem with was that this movie felt like it took a lot of things from the original trilogy a lot more serious than they were in the original trilogy.
Yeah, no, what JJ seemed to have done was just take all of these things that were iconic about Star Wars, you know, the Millennium Falcon, lightsabers, and stuff like that, and he knows how to present them in a movie that doesn't really have a whole lot of depth to it, honestly. It very much felt like a checkbox list of how to, like, excite a Star Wars fan off the street or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally understand. That's why they bring out the First Order. The First Order looks exactly like Stormtroopers. You know, they look like the Empire.
Mm-hmm. It was very much set up as a setup movie, which I think as a summer blockbuster, I think it worked okay. As we said, it was a pretty good, fun time. Yeah,
it was a decent reintroduction to Star Wars. It was a movie that relied on a plot that a third of all major Star Wars movies rely on, which is a bunch of small ships go into to blow up a big thing that shoots lasers.
Blow up the big boom laser.
Yeah, blow up the big boom laser. That's basically the plot of a third of all numbered Star Wars movies.
Yeah, pretty much. Or a giant robot controlling mind-controlled donut in space, but we're not going to get into that. What's important is that this was pretty much a reboot of Star Wars. Like, here we had a plot that was very similar to A New Hope or Star Wars as it was released, and I think overall it kind of hindered this movie as like a standalone movie. It got you very excited for the trilogy, which is probably what their goal is. So from that perspective, they certainly did a good job with that. But overall, there's not a lot to dig into here.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I have a problem with in talking about The Force Awakens is there's not a whole lot of meat to it. It's a movie that feels like it has a lot of the wallpaper of Star Wars, but not any of the actual like questions. There are questions that come up in the movie. The parentage of Rey is seen to be made very important with how many flashbacks and visuals they bring back to it. The importance of the Grand Leader Snoke. What's he called?
With the Supreme Leader.
The Supreme Leader is made out to be this huge, big figure. Who is he? What's the story behind that? We have Kylo Ren, who is, he turns out he's the son of Han Solo and Leia Organa. Ooh, that's
Gasp. How did that happen?
What's going to go on with that? Is he going to turn to the light? Is that what's going to happen?
It's like a Saturday cartoon that's like, tune in next week.
Tune in next week for more. It's a movie that has a lot of hooks, but those hooks aren't incredibly interesting questions. Like, when you really get down to what Star Wars typically focuses on, is the parentage of a character really that important?
No. Like, maybe from a fan perspective, like trying to make connections between old and new, but like, that's never really been the focus of a Star Wars movie. Like, I know we did a whole trilogy on Anakin, but I felt like
it was Anakin's story. It was the story of the rise of It was the story of the rise of the Empire.
It was
and
his story.
Beginning of a fascist movement in a republic.
Exactly. They introduce all these characters, and they're very likable characters that are pretty well written. You know, I loved Finn's introduction. I thought Rey was pretty interesting. Poe Dameron was a joy, and they're all wonderfully acted.
The one thing I also found really confusing about this movie is that it had not 2 factions, but 3. There was the First Order, the Empire surrogate. There's the Resistance fighters, the Rebel fighters called something else because we need a new name for it. And then there's the Republic, or the New Republic. And it's not ever really clear how these 3 organizations interact with each other, who controls what, or what exactly their main goals are.
Yeah, no.
From the beginning of Star Wars, from the first scene of any real Star Wars movie, you understand stakes. You understand the Empire, the Rebellion. You understand the big, looming, overpowering force and the tiny little rebellion trying to fight against that. You get that immediately, and it's evident throughout the movie who is in control, and it sets the tone for that entire trilogy. In the prequels, you understand the Grand Order and the politics of the Republic and how it's great, but it's kind of like modern America where it's got a whole bunch of power, but it's also kind of bungling and stupid.
Just kind of like the plot of those prequel movies.
Yeah, just kind of like exactly what the prequels are.
What about the trade negotiations, Connor?
Oh, God.
They're important.
But in The Force Awakens, it never really tells you about who's in control and what the power and what the stakes are in these kind of situations, which is kind of crucial, because when you have a super weapon like they do in The Force Awakens, what it means in that kind of situation is important, because in the original movies, it means that this fascist totalitarianism government has a power to destroy planets. No one can fight against them at that point. They can blow up your home world like that.
Yeah.
And it means that they can, in the first movie, the stakes are really clear. They have this power. They're going to use it to blow up the rebellion. They're going to snuff out all rebellion in the universe, and they basically control everything because they have this giant super weapon that no one can fight against. In The Force Awakens, I feel like I'm crazy, but I just don't get what the goal is or how powerful everyone else is compared to them.
Yeah, no, you don't really understand what the status quo exactly is. Like, why there has to be a resistance when there's a new republic. They're not taking the threat seriously. Yes, but like, how serious is the threat actually? We never really get a good idea.
We don't really know who, like, it's not like we need to even know who controls most area. We just need to understand, like, how powerful they are to each other or what exactly they even are.
Yeah, I was definitely, like, what exactly they even are. Because I think the Empire had the benefit of not only being, like, the first in the movie, that just easily understood that this is the government. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I almost would have, like, put a more Cold War spin on it. I don't, like, section them off to, like, a new part of the galaxy that they just, like, happen to inhabit. Like, these Imperial remnants, or just kind of anything to help ground us in the galaxy.
Yeah, just anything is the biggest thing.
Before you blew the entire New Republic up.
Hey, you know that government we didn't set up? It go boom boom now.
Yeah, it's gone. I know there was deleted scenes where they were supposed to have some conversations and probably some important topics, on there, and I understand politics are not important, and I understand movies that need to just be movies, and they don't really need to get in the nitty-gritty or anything. But, like...
when you have a moment that's supposed to be as impactful as that moment was trying to be, knowing who they're blowing up and why is kind of important. Like the first time we ever see the Death Star being used, we have the Princess of Alderaan watching Alderaan being destroyed. That's a direct, like, you have a character who you like at this point, because Princess Leia is incredibly likable. Seeing her home planet get destroyed, that is emotion right there. That's a feeling that's tense.
They blew up her house,
that's something.
her home. Like, anyone can understand that.
But like in this one, they blow up the Hosnian system. Most people thought that was Coruscant. Like, they didn't even know where it was.
I definitely thought it was Coruscant.
It's a movie that just didn't really understand how to make you feel compelled about it, but it had a lot of wallpaper that looked like Star Wars, so that was pretty neat. But it was good table setting, and it got us to The Last Jedi.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into The Last Jedi, I just want to say a few things, a few very important things, and I hope you're all listening to me right now. People have opinions, and they differ from one another, and some people have very strong opinions. I'm about to upset half of you when I say The Last Jedi was the best fucking sequel movie, and I think it's great. And you could go fuck yourself. Okay, hold on. Let me reel that back in. We're gonna just kindly discuss The Last Jedi.
It was really fucking great, and anyone who disagrees can go fuck themselves.
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah, brother!
But yes, The Last Jedi is very controversial, so...
The Last Jedi is controversial because people don't like being challenged on what Star Wars is. That's my hot take.
It's definitely a hot take. I'll take the middle road and just say, if you don't like The Last Jedi for whatever reason, that's fine. People don't have to like things.
I will definitely say that I don't think The Last Jedi is a perfect movie by any means. I don't think it's one of my favorite movies ever. Not at all, really. But it's a really great Star Wars movie. I think it does have a lot of flaws. Like, when it comes to jokes, I think the joke writing's a bit weird. The joke writing in all of the sequels feels a bit off for Star Wars.
I always felt
it tries to have a lot of comedy moments.
Yeah, I always felt like it almost tried to, do almost what our modern comedy sensibilities are. Kind of what the original
Trilogy was doing. It felt like it tried to be like a Marvel movie kind of things.
Yeah, I think the first Star Wars just had the benefit of we're establishing everything, so this is kind of how humor is. Personally, I didn't mind it as much, but I don't really blame anyone for having a problem with it, honestly.
No, yeah, it just felt tonally a bit odd. You have the original trilogy, which felt really natural and well written with it when it had comedy beats in there. And then you had the prequels, which was devoid of humor and all life.
Yeah, it was.
You come to this movie, and it is trying to do something with its comedy. It's not my thing, personally, but that's fine. Overall, this is the best-looking Star Wars movie I think exists at all.
Honestly, if it's not too controversial for me to say, I honestly think this is the best-looking Star Wars movie, period.
Yes, I don't even think that's really a controversial statement. It is clearly one of the best looking movies, best shot movies out, like, for a Star Wars movie out there. Now, all three of these movies are really well shot. They have great cinematography behind them, amazing effects behind all of them. Very professional, very well done, incredibly well acted. But this one just had something more to it, like the fight scene in the throne room.
Oh God, yeah.
The reds and the blacks and the fire, and it just all works so well.
No, when people say every frame a painting, this movie is the definition of that. It is gorgeous. It knows what its visual themes are. It is very
white,
red.
Black, red.
White, black, red.
Black, red, all over the fucking place.
And goddamn is it gorgeous.
It has one of those breathtaking sequences I've ever seen in the theater, and that is, of course, Holdo's suicide run when she light speeds into another ship, which I've never thought of someone doing, and it's so cool they did that. And it's an interesting new twist to like light speed jumps. It's a beautiful fucking shot because it just takes your breath away with white and black, and you see everything explode, and the sound was incredible.
Absolutely incredible. I wake up in cold sweats just thinking about it sometimes, just being like, damn, I'll never make anything that cool.
I think that explosion in particular is definitely anime inspired, but I've never really seen an explosion like that or a sequence like that in a recent movie, or a movie that makes me feel something viscerally like that. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, no.
I really
if I
cannot stress enough how great that specific sequence was.
If I can explain this movie in one way, it was just a very, very brave and not afraid to do whatever the fuck they wanted, and it shows.
No.
And I think that's what excels this movie past just being another popcorn blockbuster movie. And I don't think people were ready for that, as pretentious as that sounds. But
yeah, I think the biggest weakness of The Last Jedi is that The Force Awakens came before it.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
that The Rise of Skywalker came after it. We'll get to The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, we will.
But I think if a single voice like Rian Johnson had been controlling the entire trilogy, like George controlled everything for Star Wars before him, then we would have had a more creative focus.
Mm-hmm.
The parts where this movie feels like it's lacking is where it's trying to make up for some of the failings of The Force Awakens. This movie tries to push away a little bit at the nostalgia that creeps in over and over again from The Force Awakens, trying to push away on symbols and letting the past die, as the movie says over and over again.
Yeah, no, it comes up as like themes about how people see Luke Skywalker and all these past stories as people of legends and how they can be flawless and everything, and that's how they're viewed in The Force Awakens. It's kind of like they took what they saw from The Force Awakens and they legitimately sat down and asked themselves, like, they saw just how like shallow it was, and they're like, what if we built on that in a really meta way?
Yeah, and one of the ways they did with this is by their answer to one of the biggest questions, air quotes on that, questions, coming into this movie from The Force Awakens. Everyone was talking about who are Rey's parents, and they clearly made a big deal about that. Who are they? It answers the question of who are Rey's parents by saying that they're nobody. They're nobody. Rey is trying to find her place in this story. She's trying to find where she matters in this, and she doesn't. She's just a person who is very powerful with the Force, who stumbled through, most likely through the Force, because the Force is the answer to everything when you don't have an answer to it. She's not someone who comes from a bloodline of people. She's not someone who has important backstory to her. She's a person who is now involved in a galactic conflict. Right? And it didn't matter where she came from. It matters what she's doing now, and what she's doing with her powers, and what she's doing with her place in the universe, right?
Yeah, no, she essentially becomes the everyman of the story.
Yeah.
I mean, even from the way she's introduced in The Force Awakens, you would kind of just assume that that's what she would be. I understand that J.J. Abrams was kind of going for like the whole like, oh, he's like Luke Skywalker, or she's like Luke Skywalker, you know? He was a nobody from a backwater planet. But I think what he failed to realize is that the reason he is because he's supposed to be us. I mean, he was supposed to be George Lucas, but that's a whole other conversation. But he's supposed to be the audience surrogate, and that's kind of what they set up Rey to be in The Force Awakens. So I felt that the decision to have Rey's parents be nobodies was perfect for that. It felt very refreshing, actually.
It felt refreshing for Star Wars to finally not be about the Skywalkers, right? For the story to not be just about one family. Of course, Skywalkers are tangentially important. Luke's in this movie a whole lot. But this idea of bloodlines and powers and families, it's a theme in the movie that the movie talks about. Supreme Leader Snoke, when he has Kylo Ren in his throne room, he talks about how he is the next incarnation of Darth Vader, how he has his blood, how he has powerful blood and heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what does that matter when a person who's from nobody, a no one, has just as much power as him, has just as much ability to make change as he does? Rey doesn't come from anything, and she can do anything that someone from the most elite bloodline can, because blood doesn't fucking matter.
There's a lot in this movie that I'm sure we could talk about for ages, about how it criticizes and discusses different themes in Star Wars that people, I don't think, ever expected to be like on screen, like how the Jedi are kind of dumb. It just like they especially showed in the prequels. This movie very much. This was the first time the movie was made, and it felt like it was made after the prequels. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like it incorporated
it
the prequels.
acknowledged what the prequels did.
Yeah, they acknowledged it existed.
Yeah.
Like I know they're
Which
not.
is important because the prequels themselves were horrible, but the lore it set up, the lore and the world that the prequels set up is interesting. Like the best thing about the prequels is that it brought back Star Wars in the 21st century. It brought it back to meaning something. Games, comic books,
shows,
TV shows around it.
Yeah.
One of the best things that Star Wars ever was created because of the prequels, the Star Wars Clone Wars. All these things come out of the prequels, and they all have a lot to say about the world that establishes more backstory and lore than what the actual trilogy did, and it has something more to say about these symbols, and you have to acknowledge that when you talk about them in the sequel trilogy.
And it completely acknowledged all of that
in this specific movie.
In this specific movie.
Let's talk about Yoda. I really love this version of Yoda because this feels like actual Dagobah Yoda.
Yeah.
Also, love the puppet. Love that he's kind of a smart ass.
Still a puppet, still kind of a weirdo from Empire, and I loved that Yoda way better than
prequels Yoda.
Yes, send the Wookiees we must.
But like this version of Yoda was pretty like clear about like what the Jedi Order was. I love that he brings lightning down to burn the tree, because in the end the tree didn't matter. Symbols don't matter.
It all didn't matter. Like Luke's still holding on to all of this past Jedi stuff, despite the fact that he keeps saying he's renounced it, and he's very hesitant.
Clearly hasn't. I will say, this is a brief thing. Am I the only one who feels like when the books are revealed at the end of The Last Jedi, it feels like a thing the studio made them put in? I don't feel like the books should have survived, or that Rey should have had the books. I feel like they should have just been burned.
You know what I also thought of? Actually, I was thinking about this exact thing, because I rewatched The Last Jedi very, very recently, and I noticed one of the things he said was that anything in that tree, there's nothing in that tree that Rey hasn't already taken with her. And I was like, hold on a second. Was Yoda being a piece of shit?
Wait a minute. I didn't catch that. I never thought of it like that. That's actually really good.
Yeah, no, I only noticed it this time, and I was like, hold on. He actually...
He's subtly telling Luke, yeah, she jacked her shit.
But also, very Yoda. Thanks, Yoda.
Very Yoda. Thank you, Yoda. Outside of all that stuff that it actually did for Star Wars, and like as a Star Wars fan, it also is a movie that just was able to actually set the stakes and didn't rely on one big thing blowing things up, right? It's a movie that set the stakes between the Resistance and the First Order. There was the Resistance. The Resistance is like 4 or 5 ships. The First Order is a massive fleet that controls basically all the galaxy. You have them on a chase, and it's one ship chasing another, one slightly faster than the other ones, and it's a cat and mouse thing until someone runs out of fuel.
Yeah, honestly, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It just kept everything in motion and made everything far more meaningful. Like, with any delay,
you have
any sort of...
You have a clear goal.
Yeah, there's a clear goal. The stakes are set. They're literally just saying, this is all we have. We've already lost, like, a shit ton of them because Poe missed. Also, they directly criticized that thing you said earlier about, like, with Leia going, it's not always about just getting in a cockpit and blowing things up. This whole movie could have been the trilogy for me, honestly. I think it's... So, like, after The Force Awakens came out, and up until, like, The Last Jedi released and after The Last Jedi, that was, like, the peak of my, like, Star Wars rabidness. Because I was so hyped. So, the JJ mystery box thing worked on me, right? And had all these questions and everything. I felt like I was able to go into The Last Jedi with, like, an open mind. And I was like, okay, I understand movies need to be movies, good movies, and they don't need to just sit there and read off a canon list of all the canon reasons that someone's there in canon.
And Rey is Obi-Wan's daughter.
Hello there.
That's not important. That was never important. I'm kind of really sad about how trashed this movie was. Very loudly. Very, very loudly trashed. Like, I came out of that... The first thing I thought of when I came out of that movie, and the reason I kind of understand a little bit of it, it was like, man, I looked at my girlfriend and I said, man, I love that movie. It's going to piss a lot of people off. But I thought I would have been joking. I thought I was be exaggerating. Yeah. I didn't think it was going to set the internet ablaze.
Yeah, I see a lot of people really hate on this movie, and I don't quite understand it. It's not perfect. We both can acknowledge that.
Yeah, no, but really,
for a Star Wars movie, it's really smart. It does a lot of what it needs to do. It looks fucking amazing, and it understands. It understands what Star Wars is, right? And understands in building the relationships between characters, right? If you look at from The Force Awakens, what's brought over, what are the relationships between characters? You have Rey, who kind of knows Finn. They're friends, but they don't know each other that well. They're friends.
Yep, Finn doesn't really have anything going on, so that's literally the only thing he has going on.
Finn is friends also with Poe. Poe is a charismatic guy who flies a ship well, and that's it.
Yeah. Then this movie took all of that down and looked at him and was like, Finn, why are you here? Poe, you don't need to be the hero. You just need to save lives. And Rey, you don't need to be what all these other people tell you that you need to be. You don't need to be important. You could be whatever you want to be and still have an effect on the galaxy. There's a lot.
Exactly.
I really appreciated this movie, and I really wish there was a proper follow-up.
A couple of the last things I want to bring up with The Last Jedi before we move on here. I really love how they fight over Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. I love how that's like, I don't know if the movie ever really explicitly says this, but it feels like Kylo wants it, one, because he doesn't want to have Rey have a lightsaber, so he has to fight her, but also because it's another symbol of his idol, Darth Vader. He idolizes his grandfather, and so he also, I'm sure he wants that saber. Mm-hmm. So he's pulling at it. Rey, who feels like it's her destiny because she found it, fell into her hands, she's trying to pull at it because she wants it, she wants that legacy, she wants to feel a part of something. And they're both tugging at it from both sides, and it explodes.
Yep.
And then sends them both on their own path. Rey into being, herself. She's not a Skywalker. She's not connected to the story at all. She has to be her own person and move forward as Rey. Kylo Ren moves off and becomes the leader. He doesn't stay as the sidekick anymore. He becomes the grand leader. He becomes the leader of the First Order.
Yep. He becomes the only thing he thinks he can be.
Yeah, he doesn't wear his mask anymore. He's his own person, and he's moving forward because that symbol they're fighting over is destroyed. So they have to move past it. And symbols to me kind of what happened in The Empire Strikes Back with this lightsaber is that it was Luke's identity as a Jedi, right? It's his sword. It's what shows he's a Jedi, right? It's his only connection he has to his father that he never knew. And he's fighting with it, and it gets chopped off by Darth Vader, who then says, I'm your father. He's lost the only connection he ever had to his dad. He's lost the only thing connecting to it being a Jedi and like having that history to him. Mm-hmm. And the guy who did that was his dad.
Yeah.
So his connection to his dad is severed by his own dad, and it propels Luke forward to become his own person in the next movie, to become Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, to get his own lightsaber, to have his own identity, and to move forward here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The destruction of the lightsaber, the loss of this lightsaber, can mean something going on, and The Last Jedi was trying to do that. But then it turned into The Rise of Skywalker. And now we're going to talk about The Rise of Skywalker. After The Last Jedi, which saw, if you were on the internet, it saw some mixed opinions, mostly negative. It made Luke look weak. It didn't answer those important questions posed by The Force Awakens that had no real bearing. There's a whole lot of criticisms you can put against The Last Jedi, but a lot of the worst ones were used, and it's backlash. And people reacted viscerally to it. A few things also fell through with certain directors, and Disney decided to go back to J.J. Abrams. The most consistent thing we can say about the sequel trilogy is that its vision is confused.
This movie's a lot, but not in the way that The Last Jedi was. It's a lot in the, wow, there's a lot I didn't like about this.
This is a movie that I think J.J. Abrams, I feel like, had ideas for the second and third movies of this trilogy. And instead of going off of what had previously happened in The Last Jedi, he decided, I'm just gonna make both those ideas into one movie, and we're gonna cram it together, and it'll be my movie. First thing I want to talk about here, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is a bad title. I don't think The Force Awakens is amazing either, but The Rise of Skywalker, it also doesn't make sense because there is no Skywalker alive to begin with. Like if you're looking at it like an objective point of view.
Yeah.
Why
did they? Anyway.
I don't actually understand why they call it Rise of Skywalker, because Kylo Ren isn't a Skywalker. He's a Solo and an Organa. They don't identify themselves as Skywalkers. Leia is her dad's Anakin Skywalker, but she doesn't. She doesn't identify as that at all. Luke is dead, and he doesn't rise at any point in this.
No.
And the actual Skywalker is Rey, and that doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's the last title of, like, it's just a throwaway line at the end of the movie.
So where'd they go to Tatooine? They all hated it on Tatooine.
We'll get to that.
Okay, yeah.
But this title doesn't mean anything, and
no, it's one of those...
it's also just hard to say.
Yeah.
Like the Rise of Skywalker. Sometimes it's like I want to call it the Rising of Skywalker. I'm like, that's not right.
I like to imagine JJ named it himself because it sounded cool and it sounded like an original trilogy name or something like that. Because
the Rise of Skywalker.
If I can summarize the different directing from JJ and Ryan, JJ knows what made Star Wars iconic and what put people in seats, and that was things being super flashy and laser swords and action and just
cutting edge special effects.
And a rogue, a handsome rogue, and a everyman, and Ryan actually sat down and understood what Star Wars is and what Star Wars could be, which I think the series desperately needed.
Yeah. I think if you had Rian Johnson sitting with George Lucas in the prequels, they could have made some amazing movies.
I think so.
The prequels lacked, I think, the kind of personality that Ryan brought to The Last Jedi. We're getting back to The Last Jedi, and we shouldn't stick on this. But Rian Johnson understood how more to develop Star Wars past what it was originally known for and bring something new out of it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's no secret that I don't think either of us enjoyed The Rise of Skywalker as much as we had hoped.
I honestly, it was okay. So watching The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones is a frustrating experience because they're stilted, dumb movies.
Mm-hmm.
They have ideas, they have interesting settings and plots, and they overall try to do something, but the dialogue is bad, the directing is bad, the effects are early 2000s and they look bad.
Yeah, they do.
But they are trying to do something, and it's kind of just sad, but it's something. They're not good movies, but The Rise of Skywalker is a movie that makes me feel cynical. It makes me feel bad. It makes me feel angry. Like the prequel movies, when they're really bad, they feel like it's just someone being incompetent. The Rise of Skywalker itself feels jaded in some way.
The Rise of Skywalker kind of just feels like this corporate mandated movie.
It's this movie that's supposed to fix all the big things that everyone had a problem with The Last Jedi.
Yeah, corporate mandated, Disney bigwig saying, like, no, we need to sell merch, so make all this stuff cool again. We're going to bring JJ back. And it was the first time I ever felt that in a Star Wars movie. Like, the prequels were bad, but, like, they had George Lucas's, like, vision. No one challenged him historically. Like, famously, no one challenged him, and that's kind of why the movies turned out so bad.
There's a lot of problems with the prequels. We are not defending them.
No,
but they did have something to them. They did have
that made them rewatchable, that made them worth remembering, and that was vision. I think I could describe it as vision.
Yeah, it's an ability to make a world around it. And, like, there's been so much stuff built up off of what the prequels did, right? And we've mentioned this earlier. There's a world that comes off the prequels. There's ideas and themes and characters you dive into
whole galaxy.
All over the place. I don't get that at all with the sequel trilogy, especially The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Now, The Rise of Skywalker is a movie that it's really weirdly structured for Star Wars. It's a weirdly structured movie because it's just finding an object and then finding another object and then finding the object to that object. It's like a straight adventure movie, except it doesn't give you any time to think about things.
It goes right back to a summer blockbuster when there's way too much in-depth shit from The Last Jedi to consider, that it just feels really, really weird. And at the end of the day, it almost feels like it kind of just... It's not character-driven anymore. It's all entirely MacGuffin-driven.
The biggest problem with The Rise of Skywalker comes down to its idea of how to handle what happened in The Last Jedi. And how I feel they decide to handle how they did that. It can be summarized in 3 simple words. The dead speak!
No, God damn it. All right.
They brought back Emperor Palpatine
They
for
did.
this movie.
They did.
Because I feel like they felt like they needed to have Kylo Ren be a subordinate to somebody. They needed him to not be... He needs to turn to be good, or he needs to be, serving somebody else. He can't be his own leader. And, the ending of The Last Jedi set up perfectly what you do here, right? You have...
Something entirely new.
What I felt like when I was looking at what The Last Jedi did, there's a clear way you move on from this movie, right? Mm-hmm. And it's shown in The Last Jedi. Kylo Ren is the leader. He is powerful and he is scary, and everyone is following him in the First Order. No one says anything against him. If you take that guy and make him the leader in Episode 9, he's going to fuck up, right? He doesn't think rationally. He's not able to control an army. At the end of The Last Jedi, you have a small group of people who can all fit on the Millennium Falcon, who is the Resistance. And you have a massive armada, a huge funding, a giant army that is the First Order. How do you level the playing field? The leadership and the ideology behind these groups was set up through The Last Jedi. You have Finn, Poe, and Rey all learning how to be leaders and how to be themselves, and you have Kylo Ren taking the opposite lesson and being a deranged psychopath leader. This is all set up in The Last Jedi, and you had a story there where you have Kylo Ren as the villain and see how he messes up his huge advantages.
Dynamics. Is he going to turn? Is he not going to turn? That was the first time I was like, he might not ever turn. I don't know. Maybe it'll be too late by the time he does.
Maybe it's like a deathbed kind of thing where he realizes it, and then at the end of it, it's like a self-sacrifice. At the end, maybe was all I saw, but even then, I kind of just didn't want him to turn back. That'd be more interesting.
It felt like it could have been anything. I felt like they really could have gone in some really, really unique directions.
Yeah,
but
instead they brought up Palpatine.
They did bring back Palpatine. They could have brought up Palpatine fine. It's just the role that he played in this movie was confusing. Everything about this movie was confusing. Why did they make a dagger that was the exact dimensions of a broken Star Destroyer on a SeaWorld?
That's being destroyed by the ocean. And it's like, why would you make a dagger? Why would you design a dagger that's only good for 10 years? And not even that. The weathering is gonna destroy that thing. What are you planning? It points to a certain part of a giant starship that's the size of a moon. What is your...
It was... Look, I know it's Star Wars, I know it's sci-fi and everything, but it's just... That was... there's too many bridges too far. That's a little, too much.
There is a leap of... There is a gap of leeway audiences give a movie. When you take it too far, you take it too far, and it's not believable anymore.
Why was there so many fake-out deaths?
Why did Anakin's lightsaber come back intact like nothing ever happened to it?
Why didn't Rey just get her lightsaber at the beginning, using parts that she had from the other lightsaber, which would make a little more sense?
Because she's building her own identity and not realizing that she has to rely on the past and old symbols.
It felt like JJ didn't really know how to end a movie, so he looked back into Return of the Jedi and a little bit of Revenge of the Sith, and was just like, okay, we're going to try this. Without actually looking at what the characters could be, instead looking at what he thought the characters represented. He's like, let's give Poe this Spice Runner backstory. Give him that edge, and he's got a little edge on him, and it's like, why?
He used to run drugs. That's a thing that needs to be in this movie.
That does not need to be in the movie. Also, it's not even true elsewhere. He was just a fighter pilot from the New Republic, and his parents were rebels. He didn't know how to make the story without a Han Solo character, and just I don't.
There was not any point of this. That entire sequence, there wasn't a point to. Okay, so in the movie, right, we have, let me set up the scene for you. We have a dagger. We've mentioned the great dagger before. You
Wonderful
have the dagger. They find the dagger. The dagger has writing on it, ancient Sith writing. But hey, you got C-3PO. C-3PO can translate anything. But for some reason, he's not allowed to translate Sith language. Now, I don't remember that ever being mentioned before in any Star Wars thing ever, and I've watched all of the Clone Wars and all of Star Wars Rebels as well. I've seen every single one. I don't remember that ever being mentioned. They go on like a 15-minute side quest to solve this issue that, here, you know what the answer to it is? You just write, as a screenwriter, you just say, C-3PO reads the dagger.
Let's not have the dagger at all. Let's just have a character-driven story where people are...
You could have also just wrote out the dagger, yeah.
Yeah, entirely. It could have just... I thought it was just going to be like... One of the biggest things of The Last Jedi was the fact that no one answered the call when they called for help. Luke was the only one.
No one supported them. No one believed in their rebellion.
I thought this one was almost going to be more about like actually making people believe that together they could take down this whole thing. Never does that. It kind of just goes on this bombastic adventure, which is pretty to look at sometimes when it's edited, not like garbage, which was a little weird for Star Wars.
This movie was very badly edited.
Yeah, I don't know if it was rushed. I don't know. There's
it was rushed. There had to be some like, I don't know how many re-edits they did for this movie, but it must have been a lot.
It must have been a lot. I know they completely cut out Rose. Regardless of how you feel about Rose, that's weird.
Judging as how we do like the Last Jedi, I think we both can say I like Rose as a character.
Yeah.
I think she's really good. She's really well acted. And to see her, the optics of it are horrible because whether or not they had more scenes with her in, what it looks like is they had a character who had a whole bunch of racist, horrible attacks against her in real life because of her role in a Star Wars movie, a kid's movie about shooty, bang, lasers. And they fucking capitulated to the fans and cut down Rose's screen time. Like,
yeah.
You could, like what you were saying, like convincing people about the rebellion. You know who would have been great for that? Finn and Rose, who spent the entire last movie with Rose trying to convince Finn to be a part of the rebellion. And by the end of that movie, he is geared in. He completely cares about the rebellion, about the cause, about everything. Rose is a great recruiter. Yeah. Finn is a new believer. And you can get those people, you can put them on and build up a coalition and have that be the story of saying, look at Kylo Ren. He's a crazy madman. Look at us. We have hope. We have ideas. And that could have been like a building of a conflict, of like something that could have been written by a person who has a brain.
Yeah. Basically what we're saying is there was a lot of purpose and a lot of intention in The Last Jedi with every single scene. Everything's important. Everything has a meaning. This movie just feels like it had things for the sake of having things with not a lot of thought put into them.
Yeah, it has ways of just trying to amp up the tension. We talked about in this sequel trilogy how they had, the first movie had, what's it called? Starkiller Base?
Yeah, Starkiller Base. Big ol' system destroyer.
Starkiller Base. Yeah, Starkiller Base is the Death Star, but bigger. It destroys whole systems, right? It's this idea that you just need to make something bigger, and that's more exciting. It's not a really great climax or, end goal for a movie, but, whatever. The Last Jedi had an idea of, we'll have the whole thing be set around chasing down the remaining of the rebellion, and it's an actual chase that you're watching. And fuel is running out, and you can see how much smaller the rebellion is getting as this movie goes along, dwindling down and down and down until there's barely anybody left.
Far more dire.
It felt far more dire, and it wasn't based on making something bigger. This movie decides, no, let's instead of trying to find a clever way to actually set up a movie, let's instead just make a whole bunch of Star Destroyers, and then on those Star Destroyers, we'll introduce halfway through the movie that these are even more powerful Star Destroyers. No. They have giant lasers on the bottom of them that make every single one of these Star Destroyers a Death Star.
It's like they didn't know how to make dire consequences for characters, and they were just like, okay, let's make it literal. Let's have like everything's in danger. Literally, they're gonna blow it all up.
Why is everything a Death Star?
It has to be. It has to be. Otherwise, it's not important, right?
Everything has to blow up planets. It's just like an addiction with these people when they can't think of a better way to end a movie. That's just got to be, and it blows up planets. I love this scene in The Rise of Skywalker. Let's blow up someplace they know. The planet they visited 5 minutes ago that no one has an actual attachment to.
Yeah, that was
and
weird.
That literally didn't have to be in the movie.
It could have been any planet. I know where South Dakota is.
Why not blow up Jakku?
Yeah, Jakku or somewhere else we know.
Jakku is like the only planet. Okay, that's actually something also interesting. What planets do you remember in the sequel trilogy?
In the sequel trilogy?
Yeah,
off the top of my head,
like name the planets you remember. There's Jakku.
Jakku, Crate, Takodana.
What's that?
Exactly. No, it's the planet they go to with Maz's castle.
Okay, I don't remember that at all. I don't remember that having a name.
Big old jungle forest.
Canto Bight, I guess, is a city, not a planet. I don't know. We're gonna call it that.
Yeah, but
that's like 4.
I could
not. You could have blown up Canto Bight. That would have been funny.
Just blow up all of their lobbyists.
That at least would have been interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
That could have like at least would have been funny. You know, I love The Last Jedi, but like, you know, blowing up Canto Bight, that at least would have been a fun jab.
There you go. There's a lot of unfun jabs, but that would have been a fun jab.
Yeah, like there's the jab where like Luke catches a lightsaber and is like, that's no way to treat a lightsaber. Like, fuck off,
Yeah,
J.J. Abrams.
Or how about my favorite jab, which is, hey, Rey, you're a Palpatine. You're not a nobody.
Oh my god. I wasn't lying to you when I said you're a nobody. Your parents are nobodies, but that's because they wanted to be. I'm like, that's not how nobodies work. That's not what that means.
No, it's not.
They didn't die in a pauper's grave because they sold you for drinking money then. I wasn't lying in The Last Jedi. They were actually trying to protect you because your parents loved you. And I'm like, but you said in the last movie they sold you for drinking money. That's a lie then.
Yeah, no. Honestly, what hit this movie a lot for me was just it trying to go back on the previous movie, which made it feel really like it was written by some subreddit or some shit.
Yeah, but like it was trying to go back on, like we mentioned in The Last Jedi, it tries to go back on a few things that The Force Awakens did, but it never actually undoes those things. It just finds different ways of resolving it or moving it forward.
Yeah.
In a way that probably wasn't intended by J.J. Abrams, but is what, you know, they deem necessary. Yeah. In The Rise of Skywalker, it feels like they actively go back and say, now we're going to erase this part out, and instead of no last name, we're going to write in Palpatine.
Ooh.
Also, when he says that she's a Palpatine, I'm just like, I don't think I've ever heard that be used as like an actual like title.
Yeah, yeah, no.
People
also,
always call like Chancellor Palpatine or things, or like the Emperor. Just hearing him be called Palpatine in the films just seems so cheap. I don't know, something weird about it.
It does feel weird, especially since the only way people have ever referred to anything like that is like a Skywalker, which kind of makes more sense because the whole thing's about them.
Yeah.
But like, oh god, there's so much in this movie. That Palpatine reveal is what made me physically slink down in my seat and just go, oh. Like I had a physical reaction. I was like, they're really doing
I
this.
saw it coming, but yeah, I had the same thing.
I was like, and like...
there's more we could talk about here. I mean, there's Finn being basically useless to the movie.
Underutilized.
There's the whole scene where they're sinking into the quicksand. He's clearly about to say that he loves Rey. Rey, I have a secret to tell you. And then J.J. Abrams comes out and says
no, he was going to
say he was force sensitive. When you're about to die, don't you want to tell people that you had the ability to sense that this was going to happen?
Yes, so they could all hate me. Right before they die.
Why would that be a thing you tell? Why would that be a thing he kept hidden?
I don't know. I also just don't like the implication that only people who are force sensitive have the supernatural ability to be empathetic, which is a very unfortunate. I really doubt they were going for this, but just a really unfortunate like side effect of what they were trying to explain.
Yeah, like when they have like Finn, the way Finn actually churned is that he has like force sensitive powers, and he felt empathy and like force training for some reason breaks child brainwashing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but very underutilized Finn. Most underutilized character of that entire series. He had a lot of potential, and it was just never, ever really comes to any kind of conclusion. There was never one real scene between him and Rey in The Rise of Skywalker, which I felt was really needed, considering how often he was chasing after her and trying to protect her.
From his introduction to Rey, he's always trying to protect her, and Rey's always like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, we can be friends, but don't try to protect me. That's like her thing. That's like...
wakes up in The Last Jedi, the first thing he ever says is Rey. When he chases after her when...
He's obsessed with her.
Yeah.
I don't really... Yeah.
Well, like... That's why I wanted conclusion. I wanted him to come out and say, you're the reason I was trying to get past all of this. It didn't even have to be romantic. It would have been fine if it was romantic. Just anything was better than what ended up happening, which was nothing.
And I feel like this is all I really have to say about The Rise of Skywalker. There's more you can get into.
I think we summed it up a lot. Although, there is one more thing I think we failed to discuss, Mr. Complaints. It's very important.
What is that?
So the dead speak, right?
The dead do speak. I've heard that. It was in the title thing.
Yeah. Did you know that actually happened? And you could see it happen? It's not in the movie, though.
Where could you see this happen?
Do you want to know where you can see this very important piece of information and possibly very interesting to have been on screen, but it's not?
Now that you're bringing this up, I feel like I don't want to know, but now I must.
Live in Fortnite. They had a fucking Fortnite promotion where Palpatine made a big old, like, speech or some shit. And it's the equivalent of Palpatine waking up from a nap and talking shit in Fortnite to your, like, 11-year-old kid.
Why did they do it through Fortnite?
I don't know. I don't know why they had to, like, sum it up in a single thing. I feel like seeing people react to a fucking ghost be like, ooh, I'm angry and I'm going to murder everyone is kind of an important thing.
And I'm in all your brains.
I would have preferred that in the movie. I would not have preferred to have that in Fortnite exclusively, and now the title sequence of a Star Wars movie now permanently refers to an event that happened in Fortnite. That's the world we live in.
This gets back to another issue. We're done talking about The Rise of Skywalker. Now we're going to move forward here.
Okay.
This kind of talks about the issue of Disney itself, and how Disney, they bungled these movies. There's no way to get around that. They bungled the handling of it. Whether you like some of them or not, the whole thing didn't have a consistent vision or voice through them all. The Force Awakens had ideas. Each movie that comes after it tries to knock down the other movie before it in different kind of ways. I think The Last Jedi is trying to build something else and like take it into a more positive direction.
The Last Jedi's only crime was actually trying to give meaning to Star Wars.
Yeah. And The Rise of Skywalker is just trying to hit nostalgia beats over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with almost every single one of their movies. I'm on the record on this channel saying I don't like Rogue One. I don't. I think it's really bad.
I'm fine with it.
And the more I know, but the more I think about it, the more I don't like it. Solo was fine. I didn't really care about Darth Maul was in it. That was interesting.
That was one of the weirder
like
decisions. I didn't like that decision, but I like the rest of the movie.
I mean, I liked Star Wars: The Clone Wars. That felt like it made more validity towards that.
Yeah.
The one thing that Disney is doing right is The Mandalorian is great.
It is. It's
true. The last season of Star Wars: Clone Wars is airing right now. That's really good so far. That's about it. I think they can do more with shows. I think they can get the right people. A lot of the people that George hired, if they keep those people around and maybe, let them do their thing. Let the people at LucasArts control and understand Star Wars. And I think they can make some really good shows that have really high budgets and can be really exciting. But their movies, I don't want to ever see them do a trilogy like this ever again. I'm not interested. They don't understand. Unless they're going to have an actual idea from beginning to end of what they're going to do. I'm not interested.
Honestly, yeah. I don't think they could do a trilogy like this again. Especially after how varied this one was. There is only one situation in which I would love to see another Star Wars trilogy, and that would be if they greenlit the rumored Rian Johnson trilogy, where they were basically they had so much faith in The Last Jedi that they gave him an entire trilogy to work with, completely different from any of the Skywalker stuff, because they were so happy with The Last Jedi.
Oh my God! Can you imagine a Rian Johnson Old Republic series? I really love the Old Republic comic book series, and if they did something in that era of Star Wars in movie form, I'd be so down for that.
Agreed.
So down for it. But also, I kind of want Rian Johnson to just make more Knives Out movies.
Yeah, me too.
Do what he wants to do, because I don't.
Yeah, he's great.
I don't need more Star Wars movies, honestly.
It's unfortunate. It's a bit of a tragedy, honestly.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, and it's unfortunate, but we got through it.
We did.
And that is our discussion on the Star Wars sequel trilogy. The end of the Skywalker saga, which I think that's a thing that they just came up with for when the sequel trilogy came out. Because I don't think that was a thing when the prequels are coming out, right? They didn't call it the Skywalker saga.
No, at least I don't.
No, I don't like that. I don't like calling it that. I don't like that terminology.
Yeah,
I hear people using it all the time. I just don't. It feels really corporate. I don't know.
I feel that.
All right, but yeah, that is all we have here. So, Yoshinom, to you, would you like to plug your pluggables one last time?
Well, I guess I would love to. I am Yoshinom, also known as Yosh. I have quite a few names. You may also refer to me as Cold Knight. I have a Twitter, Yoshinom to you, and I also have a Twitch, which is just Yoshinom. And I also have a YouTube, which is Yoshinom to you. I'm trying to working on, uniting the branding, which is not going very well. But, yeah, you'll find me.
You get the idea.
Doing stuff on all of that stuff.
And links for his stuff is going to be in the description below again. So check out Yosh. Thank you very much for coming on here.
It's been a pleasure.
You can also find me on the channel that you're currently watching this video on. So please comment on what you thought of Star Wars and subscribe for more videos. I am currently working on a number of videos right now.
You said the thing.
And
you said like, comment, subscribe.
I did.
You're a YouTuber now.
Because I am. I've become one of them.
No.
Strike me down, and I will grow more powerful.
And then you'll fall down a shaft, and then be cloned, and then come back alive. Yeah, pretty much that.
Anyway. Thank you very much for watching this video, and you all just stay rad.